endeavour and perspective, they complement their lifestyle. Yes. Well, and that brings me to this point I want to make. Once I had a very trusted friend say that if all you do to take care of the issues in your life is relax, then you're not going to solve some of those issues. And that is true. But there are times where relaxing is one of the best things to do. If you've too much cortisol in your system, your brain, then there are damages being done. And now there's a healthy amount of cortisol, and there is copious, consistent amounts of cortisol. And to balance these with your serotonin, endorphins, oxytocin, even dopamine is a wonderful endeavour. So relaxing is absolutely a noble procedure when you're at your wit's end or something like that. There's much to be said for taking a moment. And even if, well, I should say, in my opinion, especially if you endeavour to relax, well, that you relax as a byproduct of a process of perspective changing. So, meditation is maybe the best example for this. Meditation, in most of its forms, is practice, time spent being in a state of mind that arguably all people have trouble being in. It's not loneliness per se, but it is the feeling of not having someone else directly there to support you. And now in the modern day with such things like ASMR, there are exceptions to that even. You can have recordings of people and satiate some of those visceral desires to have someone nearby even when they're not. But to have a focused meditation without those elements is to spend time by yourself, in a state that many people dread even. There something strangely unsettling, maybe, about, how do I say this? About being of the world and not of the world at the same time. No one can fully appreciate your perspective on any one thing. There's always nuance, details lost to, I want to say to be had, but ultimately it's impossible to have them. Now you can make a story about someone's life and a few events and give background for that, and that's close. You can get close. Being a close friend to someone and knowing these things is as close as you can get. A lover even, significant other. But being in one's mind and having no one completely know what that's like can be unsettling. I suppose the question that meditation most closely answers is, how do we make peace with that? What do we do with that? And how do we do it? In its essence, at its core, I believe meditation is that sort of sitting with it, that feeling of everything and nothing together. The feeling of alone with the feeling of everything around you that you don't understand, maybe yet, or have a bit of fear about. And fear is very human. That's not to say that you should, or one should endeavor to experience fear to its fullest. It's more to say that, and also not to say that fear is something to cast off. It's rather something to accept into one's knowledge. The presence of it does not have to drive certain behaviors that we wish not to have from it. Fear is always there to some degree, and that's okay. For me, and we're all different, but for me, I can take fear as a visitor especially when I maybe don't want to focus on it so much, and it is there. To not accept it as part of me so much as to accept it as something there, visiting. It can be nearby, but it does not have to be within. You don't have to, and I prefer not to, identify with my fear when it's too much. Now, grieving and mourning and having natural doubts about things to a degree that isn't barring you from normal activity and thought patterns and your daily activities. It's all well and good. We can accept those. We can be vulnerable with ourselves and others. But when it gets to the point that it's too much, and it's once again interrupting our lifestyle, then you can do many things, but you certainly can also meditate. And maybe not in the moment. You don't always have the time to meditate. And that's actually, as you practice meditation, you can bring it about in small ways, quickly. So that's even kind of incorrect. If you are practiced enough, you can remind yourself of that presence, or perhaps lack of presence, depending on how you see it, because it's one and the other. Whatever helps get you to that brain space, that spirit space, perhaps. However you like to define it is good. So when I have some sort of anxiety that comes and I am not welcoming it, I'd rather not have it, I can and do picture it as a visiting, like something in between a cat or a monkey. It's very nimble. It can jump on my shoulder. I can say hi to it inwardly, to myself, of course. Unless nobody's around. And I can, as another one of my friends says, offer it a cup of tea. Say hi. Sit down with it. So what's happening is you're not casting it away. You're not trying to push it away. You're accepting its presence, maybe nearby, but not in to your mind and heart. And it doesn't have to be part of you. You can speak with, you can visit with, you can sit with fear, anxiety. All these feelings we sort of identify with negative things. And maybe they don't have to be negative in the moment. You can visit. You can let them visit. And the better. Just a minute or two. And when you're used to that process of accepting them into your space, not inside of yourself, but nearby, you can do it faster. So those couple minutes that it took to accept those feelings and let them be on their way when they want to go, not pushing, accepting, then you can do it faster. Sometimes it gets slow again, but practice makes perfect, so to speak. Your relationship, that's the key word I want to use here for this bit. Your relationship with your emotions that you'd rather not have sometimes, anxiety and fear and stuff. You can accept that they have been a part of you. Past tense here, that's key. They have been a part of you, and that's okay. Appreciate your relationships, even if you don't want them right now. This applies to emotions as well as people. You can even love these emotions and people that you might not want around for the moment. There need not be this opposite of love for these things. You don't need to push. You can appreciate their presence in the past especially, but even in the present. You can appreciate their presence in the present without accepting them into your mind. Does that make sense? Let's try that again. You can appreciate the presence of something you'd rather not have around in the present. And then it can go when it wants. In a way, these emotions, well, let me think about this. Do they have a life of their own? Perhaps. I really don't know. It's an interesting thought. Does your fear want to visit you when you don't want it to visit? Is it capable of want? Can it miss you? Maybe. Either way, it doesn't need to be a part of you. It can be apart from you. Its presence, welcome, and perhaps also unwelcome. But giving it that moment with you might be all it needs. And then it can be on its way again. You can love the relationship that you've had and that you currently have in a more limited fashion, perhaps. They're not mutually exclusive at all. This is okay. That emotion is okay. And that visiting monkey can be cute. Mine oftentimes tries to cuddle up to me on my neck when it's on my shoulder, and I accept that. It's interesting, right? I can turn anxiety into a cute pet, and I don't keep this pet. The pet just likes to visit me. It's wild. That's the feeling I get, at least for my anxiety. It's wild. It visits. I can have a cup of tea with it, conceptually. Or even if you like in your mind, you can do just that. And then it can be on its way again. And I can appreciate the small moment we had. And I can appreciate it being gone. I can't remember the last time that the monkeys visited me while I've had this way of thinking in my head about this emotion. I can't remember the last time that the monkeys visited me and been angry at me, been cross with me at all. It's a welcome presence for me now. And it might be partially because of my familiarity with it. An old friend. But right now, I don't need that friend. So I let it go when it wants to. Never pushing. Ever loving. I do feel love for this emotion. Even though I don't want it. Isn't that interesting? I genuinely feel love, and I even get a bit of tingles when it's around. It likes to nuzzle my neck just a bit. And that's it. And I never once have wanted to just sit and meditate about that emotion. But now, sitting here, talking to you, I don't mind saying that I might do. After all, why not? If you have a decent amount of control over your feelings, over this feeling, and this relationship feels stable to you, what if you just sat down, stood, did a yoga pose, and meditated about I could meditate about my anxiety. Why not? It's so cute, right? Thank you. And I hope some of this has helped you reframe your feelings that you might not want around. And certainly, you might not want to feel as they're a part of you, so much as a visitor. Well, I think that's about it. Until next time.